And they have struggled with that.
Why?
Well, that's a question you need to ask them. I can't answer it, because for me it's very clear-cut. Until these problems are sorted out, we will not return to a normal relationship. I want to make that very, very clear.
Your opponents say that you're not being totally honest about the extent of incursion, that areas where the Indian Army used to patrol previously have been denied, landmass in excess of 1,000 square kilometers being spoken of. They're saying this is a daylight robbery of our land. The PLA has intruded into our country. Dr. Jaishankar is not telling the people the truth.
These are the same opponents who said, let's leave the border undeveloped so that the Chinese can't come, or if they come in, they can't come in so fast. These are the same opponents? Okay. Now, let's look at the reality. Look, the reality is, wherever an attempt has been made to change the status quo, the Indian Army has deployed and countered. Now, it is because of that there has been face-offs and standoffs, and on some occasions, clashes and loss of lives. If we had done nothing, then Galwan wouldn't have happened. Then, what you saw in December at Yangtze in Arunachal wouldn't have happened. So the fact that, there have been counter deployments is not disputed by anybody unless you are an opponent. Okay? So in terms of what is it you are patrolling, yes, there are certain places where we have, is something which Rajnath-ji, the defense minister, has spoken about in Parliament, that you have mutually agreed areas of temporary non-patrolling in order to facilitate disengagement. So if there are places I cannot patrol, there are places the Chinese also cannot patrol. Now, so this is something which has been worked out in certain areas where the deployments were very, very close up. But do remember also, this is quite different from what used to happen before. Because if you looked at our history, people forget in Barahoti in the 1950s, in 1958, we unilaterally decided on a demilitarized zone. They didn't reciprocate. In the 1970s, there are areas we chose not to patrol, unilaterally. Even when Sumdurongchu, Wangdong was resolved, we first came down. This government is very different. There's nothing unilateral. If we have today taken on some I would say, commitment, that commitment is matched by an equal commitment based on the principle of equal and mutual security on the Chinese side. So, look, opponents will play this game because the very people who actually neglected the border, the border infrastructure budget till 2014 was below 4,000 crores. Today it's almost 15,000 crores. You look at road building. The pace of road building has doubled or tripled. Tunneling has tripled. So the people who are today making a noise are people, and you should look at the record.
Speaking of opponents?
No, hang on.
Oh, yes.
In 2013, I was ambassador in China, okay? You remember I think I spoke to you at that time, there was a Chinese incursion in Depsang. Do you remember what the foreign minister of the day said then? He said, this is acne on the face of a beautiful relationship, and therefore we should not worry about it. So now you're telling me these people have suddenly discovered what's the importance of the border? Come on.
Speaking of opponents, Rahul Gandhi, speaking in West London, the United Kingdom, said that you're scared of China, that the foreign minister says China is much more powerful than us, how can I pick a fight with them? At the heart of his ideology is cowardice, and then he goes back to the times of the British to say that the RSS never fought, and this is really the mentality that's seeped down. How do you respond, Mr. Gandhi?
Okay. I'm actually reminded, because first we are talking about Rahul Gandhi speaking about China abroad. I'm reminded of a very different experience I had in 2011. This was the first time I met Narendra Modi. He was then the opposition chief minister of Gujarat, very much under attack at that time, political attack in India. He comes to China. I'm the ambassador. And he asked me for a briefing on our problems with China. And we're having a problem. We had the staple visa issue, we had the Northern Command issue, there were a whole set of issues. So I told him that you're the first chief minister who's ever asked for a national security briefing. I'm curious to know why. To which he said, look, I'm an opposition chief minister. I have come to China. I do not want to say anything which is 1 millimeter other than my national position. And I have to be very careful. So I first need to fully understand from you. And two, at the meeting, if you see me deviating in any way, you signal me. I'm reminded of this because when I saw what happened in 2011 and I see what's happening today, I look at the contrast. Now your question. Look, I also, like many others, followed some of what Rahul Gandhi said when he was in UK. Obviously, look, a lot of it is politics. I'm putting that aside. Okay? There's a discount when it comes to politics. I'm troubled as a citizen of India. I'm troubled as a citizen of India when I see somebody drooling over China and being dismissive about India. And I'll give you examples. He puts his description suo moto of China in that Cambridge talk. What's the word which comes to his mind when he talks of China? Harmony. His one-word description of China is harmony. His one-word description of India is discord. Okay? He talks admiringly of how China is the greatest manufacturer, nobody can. And yes, China has done a tremendous job. I mean, nobody. But when it comes to manufacturing in India, he runs it down in every possible way. He says, make in India won't work. I mean, when you made Covaxin, the Congress party was saying Covaxin doesn't work. So, you know, it's one, look, you can have objective assessments about the progress of other countries. There's nothing wrong with that. But in this current situation, to talk up, you know, a competitive relationship, and to worse, do down your own country, you're telling me, I'm scared. I'm asking you, you know, why is somebody undermining national morale like this? And it's not just, you know, economy. Let's even look at security. He talks about connectivity. He speaks admiringly in the same talk. He's spoken about the Belt and Road. He compares, very poetically, I must say, he compares Belt and Road like the Yellow River in China, gushing forth. Guys, the Belt and Road goes through POK. It violates our national integrity and sovereignty. He doesn't have a word to say about it. So I think, you know, when, to use Dr. Pillsbury's term, when panda huggers try to be China hawks, it doesn't fly.
Interesting. Now that you mentioned Michael Pillsbury, I want to refer to a few things from his book. If you heard some parts of his session at the India Today Conclave yesterday, he spoke of how he would have expected, given what's happened in the warring states in the past, that there be a much stronger response from countries like the Quad to develop a countervailing force to a rising superpower. That the Quad is still very loosely formed, doesn't have any definition in terms of a strategic military alliance, even if it's not a formal alliance, but a more robust opposition to a rising superpower, that the world is allowing China to rise without coming together to stop it more purposefully.
I watched that session. It was a very interesting session. But pause for a moment on Quad.